But that election is also sending Iowa's 1st District Congressman Rod Blum back to D.C. for his second term. Blum has largely run and been reelected now on a drain the swamp kind of message. We sat down to talk to him first about what it's like to have a president heading to the White House who feels the same way. What was that like when you saw that message come out of the Trump campaign, especially here in Iowa towards the very end of the general election?
Oh, it makes me smile, as your question did. I've been for draining the swamp for the last 2 years. Some of the first things I did 2 years ago when I was first elected, I followed through on what I said I would do. And I co-sponsored a constitutional amendment for term limits. My first bill that I authored was a bill to eliminate first-class air travel, paid for by the taxpayers for congressional members. Eliminate luxury car leases for congressional members, paid for by the taxpayers. Eliminate the congressional pension program, which is an awfully good pension program. I've never heard of one better. It also would. I also authored a bill that would give a lifetime ban, put a lifetime ban on lobbying if you've served in Congress. And I got onto a bill, I really like this one, tying our pay to the pay of the average American. So if the average American out there gets a pay cut, their pay goes down, we should get a pay cut. And if we want a pay raise, let's make sure the average American gets a pay raise. These are things I fought for, and I was behind all of these bills, and none of them made it to the floor of the House for a vote. Leadership didn't want to vote on them.
Is it disconcerting, though, that I believe it was Mitch McConnell said that basically in no uncertain terms, term limits is kind of not on his radar screen?
Extremely disconcerting. I couldn't disagree with him more. I think the American people overwhelmingly disagree with Mitch McConnell on this point. I bet the number, Kevin, over the last 4 years of traveling Eastern Iowa is probably 80 to 90% of Eastern Iowans want a vote on term limits. Regardless if they're Democrat, Independent, or Republicans, they want a vote on term limits. I'm with them. I'm fighting for that. I want a vote on term limits. So hopefully, that's why I smile, hopefully with President-elect Trump, we finally get that vote.
How does the role now of the House Freedom Caucus shift, if at all, with a Republican in the White House and someone who sees the world the way that a lot of the Freedom Caucus members do?
I think we're a very principled group of people. There's about 40 members, 35 to 40 members, who are principled. It's part of the reason we came together, because we're principled and we want to discuss and debate the issues, something we didn't get to do on the House floor under former Speaker John Boehner. And that's probably the biggest reason that the group formed, was because of the former Speaker Boehner. But we're a principled group of people, so I think whether it's a Republican or a Democrat in the White House doesn't really matter to us. I mean, we want to make sure that we secure the southern border. We want to make sure that we reignite the economy. We want to make sure we balance the budget and stop this deficit spending. We want to make sure that we're a nation of laws and we follow those laws.
Even before Election Day, House Republicans were moving forward with what was called a better way, and there were the pamphlets, and I know Speaker Ryan was talking a lot about it. What's the importance of coming out with a list of issues and stances on the issues that House Republicans are going to take to kind of fight back against, I know we've talked about it, but the idea that Republicans were obstructionists in the House? I know you say that they weren't.
First of all, the House definitely was not obstructionist. We passed over 500 bills in the last session over the last 2 years. Good bills, good stuff, and helping veterans, helping elderly people, helping small businesses, reducing regulations. Most of those bills went to the United States Senate and died because they have the filibuster rule. So we did a lot of work that I guess was unnoticed, passed a lot of bills, so I think we're far from obstructionists. The idea Speaker Ryan had, and I think is a good one, is we started last year having working committees on, for example, how to reform poverty, how to reform health care, how to reform our tax code, and any of us members could join any of the committees that we wanted to. I happen to be very interested in helping people achieve the American dream and lifting themselves out of welfare, so I joined that working committee. The idea behind it was not to necessarily create legislation last year, but it was to get all of our input, put all of our ideas together, and we met every week last year and put together a plan in each one of those areas that could be turned, Kevin, into legislation this year. So the idea was if we ended up with a Republican president, he or she could hit the ground running in 2017, because we already had nearly ready-made legislation ready to go.
In the next 2 weeks, we'll be taking a much closer look at some of the policies we were talking about there in A Better Way, and Congressman Blum's role in crafting it and how it's doing so far in the 115th Congress.